You think you're being chill, but your partner feels ignored again. You replay the argument in your head, wondering how it spiraled this far. And if you don't connect the dots between ADHD and these patterns, the damage will keep stacking. I'm Dr. Sasha Hamdani. I'm a board-certified psychiatrist who specializes in ADHD and has it herself. This video breaks down how masking impulsivity and rejection sensitivity quietly erode your relationships. This shows you how you can finally stop the cycle and build connection without pretending to be someone you're not. So before we get into this, I want to start with why your partner gets your absolute worst self. You hold it together all day, but the second you walk into the house, everything unravels. Why does it feel like your partner gets the version of you that no one else sees, and not in a good way? So if you know what I'm talking about, this is probably not a new concept for you, but ADHD masking drains your brain all day. You're constantly performing. And why I'm saying that you might know how that feels is that when I talk to my patients about this, they give me stories like, I feel like I have to pretend to be this perfect employee, or that I have it all together, or that I'm the go-to person in every setting of my life. That's exhausting to have to go through life pretending. Here's the real kicker. The more pressure you are under to act normal, the more depleted you become. What makes this an even more challenging issue is that a lot of times when we enter new work environments, we enter in a blaze of glory. There is hyper focus and we are so excited and exhilarated by what we're doing. We're really good at what we're doing. We are killing it in terms of numbers. We are engaged. We are social. That's when the challenge is interesting. That's before you hit that kind of humdrum of being in the job for as long as you have. Okay, now when that initial wave of novelty has worn off, you have now managed to create these false expectations about yourself. So when you are having a relatively normal day, people are asking, what's wrong? By evening, you are irritable, you've collapsed, you're shut down. And that's when you have to turn it on for your partner. That is probably one of the most difficult things. When you come home from the end of the workday, you are just wiped. Masking all day drains that executive function. So by the time you get home, there's nothing in the tank. If this sounds like something you have struggled with, I want you to know that you're not alone in this. A lot of people struggle with this specific thing when it comes to relationships, where they are just tapped out by the end of the day and they have nothing left to give their partner. If you're in that situation, I want you to pause and I want you to really think about what we talked about in this last section, because I think that's really important information to share with your partner who might think they don't like me, they're uninterested. Being able to have that verbiage to say, listen, this isn't just me. This is what my brain is doing throughout the day. And this is why it's so hard to muster the enthusiasm or energy that I want to show, but I just can't quite get there. Let's drill down even further. What happens when you drop that mask? And again, I'm not telling you anything that you probably haven't experienced already. Here's something your partner might say. Why can you act normal around everyone else? It's also really difficult in that moment to explain that crash without seeming like you're making excuses. Here's the deal. In public, you're working really hard, even if you don't know it, to suppress those ADHD traits, to pass into normalcy, even amongst your friends. You're at home. That safe place for you. That mask falls off, which is a wonderful and liberating thing. But that mask is heavy. And that's when your partner is seeing this completely different person that the rest of the world might not see. I'll tell you, I've had some patients who have brought in their partners, and as they're talking about their brains and their lives, partners will bring up things like, it almost seems a little bit deceptive. Like, what am I supposed to think if she is this completely different person during the day and a completely different person at night? It's really difficult to explain unless you've lived it or unless you understand that underlying neurobiology. The other thing I've heard a lot from partners is that when you get home, you are just drained. And so I'm left to pick up the pieces. And then we go through this cycle and I feel like I'm your parent, and I hate that because I don't want to be your parent. I want to be your partner, and you hate that because you feel like I'm being patronizing. This is something that I hear all the time in my practice. And I will tell you, just from my own personal experience, this is something that I have experienced in not only the early days of my relationships, but even as I've gotten deeper within long relationships, it is really difficult to shake that dynamic. Once you fall into this parent-child relationship, it gets really weird and it's kind of tricky to break free from because there's a lot of resentment on both sides. And so I think that's why it's so important to have videos like this and education like this. Number one, know that that exists. And number two, learn to talk about it with your partner and start to isolate and figure out where are the gaps and the breaks in this so that we can start to correct the problem. And obviously I'm saying this, but I'm totally blowing past the fact that communication itself really not super easy when you have ADHD. Number one, when you're talking with your partner, a lot of times those conversations can get emotional. And for me, like any sort of emotional discussion is going to end up with me crying. I'm going to cry. It doesn't matter what it is, I will cry. And that's very distracting and hard to get your point across. And that probably stems back to these tiny little moments that spiral really quickly. When you have one comment that your brain just gets stuck on, and then suddenly it escalates really quickly. Your brain has blown it up into something else, and now you're in the middle of a full-blown argument. I know that probably sounds familiar to a lot of you. I guess the question is, why does everything feel so big even when it isn't? Maybe 2 hours later, you get past that argument and you're like, that was silly. I shouldn't have responded like that, but your brain has exploded and now you're dealing with it. That boils down to emotional dysregulation. And I know I simply will not shut up about this, but it's because it is so important. Emotional dysregulation means that you react faster and harder than you're intending to. And this, I feel personally from all of my research and what we know about ADHD, I think is a big part of ADHD. Interestingly enough, a lot of people with ADHD also note that emotional regulation is the most difficult part of their ADHD. Now, what about emotional regulation is the most difficult? Oh, I am so thrilled you asked, because the answer is rejection-sensitive dysphoria. Do you guys know what that is? Rejection-sensitive dysphoria. This is referring to a concept where you get this intense emotional, sometimes physical response to real or perceived, it can be perceived, rejection or criticism. So think about arguments. Those are filled with moments of rejection or criticism, real or perceived, and it becomes like a war ground for you. All of a sudden, you are just dealing with sharp chest pain when people are talking to you, or you're dealing with, like, in the midst of fighting, you feel like the air gets knocked out of you, or that you're just like, I am so overwhelmed. I think I'm going to have a panic attack. I literally cannot finish this conversation. I personally have had arguments where I have felt like if I don't get out of this room right now, it is going to be a medical emergency. I can't explain it any other way. And I just really fled out of the room mid-conversation because I just cannot deal with what is going on right at that second. You know, as I've gotten older, and especially as I've researched and learned more about my brain, I'm starting to understand that that moment, that explosive nature is quite literally my nervous system responding to feeling incredibly unsafe. And so when you are flooded with all of this input, which happens with ADHD, you are just bombarded by input. It is difficult for you to figure out, this is safe, this is not. And so everything feels very dangerous and upsetting and urgent. Here's the deal. If you know that's something that you're experiencing, what does that mean for interaction with your partner? I'll tell you what I have seen many, many times. A pattern that you typically see with this is that in order to avoid this explosive nature of feeling hurt, people pull away at first and they withdraw, or they pick fights to kind of pull away. That, without you even knowing, may be the subconscious need to feel more in control of the relationship because you don't want to get hurt. Here's a problem. That only deepens this disconnection and it makes you more likely to have those fights. What I'm sure you guys have all experienced before, or it works, right? You pull away and the other person's like, okay, bye. And then the relationship's over, which is not what you wanted in the first place. The next pattern that could happen is that your partner stays around, but now they are walking on eggshells. They are scared of what's coming next. They don't know how to talk to you. They don't know how to interact with you. And so it becomes this very skewed dynamic because you're in self-protection mode and they don't know how to help you how to grow with you, because you might not even know what's going on within you. This emotional dysregulation means small triggers can lead to explosive reactions and responses. And let me tell you, that can lead to both of you feeling pretty hurt and upset. So I guess now we have to talk about how to rebuild without completely erasing yourself. Like, I want this to be an interactive space. Like, tell me, does this sound like you? Is this something that you're dealing with also? Like, let's all learn from each other in these comments and in this space. What's really important to me with these videos is that we normalize these phenomenons. The way I'm going to get through this is I'm going to keep pretending. Like, it's not going to be just throughout the workday. I'm going to continue to mask it home because I can't keep it together. So now you are working even harder, holding it all in. But what if the real fix isn't getting better at pretending, building a life that doesn't require it? I think that's a weird concept, but instead of trying to just beat out your ADHD and like present yourself as having less ADHD or no ADHD, and this is an exercise in vulnerability, and I get that, and that's not something that's going to come easily at all. But I think starting by building systems that work with your brain instead of against it, that's going to be the foundation of how you become successful in your career, in your life, but especially in relationships. And that can be things like creating rituals that support your energy, like decompressing before reconnecting with your partner. It could be things like having your partner kind of integrated into your systems a little bit more, like shared calendars or reminders, or like body doubling with them. That can take some of the pressure off you, and then you're doing things that are enriching the relationship while also letting in your partner to like, this is how my brain works, and I want you to be a part of it, but it's different and it's unique, and this is what works for me. I also really think it's important to be said that you do need that safe place to unmask fully. You just need to find a spot and a time to be completely yourself. And I think that's really important for your partner to see. So in those moments where you are drained and you are trashed from the day, you need to show that to your partner, because that's part of your life. So I don't think that we need to go through this song and dance of pretending or trying to hold it all together. They need to see all of it. Now, whether or not you need to just let that ride forever, I don't know. I think we need to also build systems that are going to help so that you have a good balance, but I don't think you need to hide that stuff either. I think what I'm trying to say is that we need to start shifting from perfectionism to partnership. The goal isn't to hide your traits, it's to work with them. So if you've been trying to fix your relationship by masking harder or holding everything in, you already know how that ends. But what if the real issue isn't just your relationship? It's how you manage focus in the first place. In this next video, I'll show you the exact systems I use as a psychiatrist with ADHD to focus, especially on the days where my brain refuses to cooperate.